40 years after the events of TRON, both NCOM and rival Dillinger Systems, led by former NCOM executive Ed Dillinger's grandson Julian, have been engaged in a race to bring digital constructs into the real world, but can so far only sustain them for 29 minutes before deresolution. Eve Kim, the current CEO of NCOM succeeding Kevin Flynn's son Sam, has located a remote station in Alaska that Flynn set up decades ago, and which her younger sister Tess rediscovered. Kim and her confidant Seth believe that on one of Flynn's old computers lies the permanence code, the secret to breaking the 29-minute barrier. Simultaneously, at Dillinger Systems headquarters, Julian debuts Ares, the newest master control program from his grid, marking humanity's first contact with artificially intelligent beings. Julian pitches Ares as the perfect soldier who is also fully expendable. However, Ares demonstrates an unexpected sense of self-awareness, noting Julian's indifference to whether he lives or dies, and also taking an interest in the natural phenomena of the real world, such as rain. After the meeting, Ares promptly dereses, while Julian's mother, former CEO Elizabeth, chastises him for failing to mention Ares can only survive outside the grid for 29 minutes. Julian claims it will soon be irrelevant, launching a cyber attack on NCOM's mainframe, led by Ares, to steal any leads they have on the permanence code. A battle between NCOM security programs and the infiltrators ensues, with Ares downloading Eve Kim's personal data. During their escape, a member of his team, Caius, is injured, and Ares, in spite of his programming, tries to save him. However, Julian extracts his team and disables NCOM's grid before he can do so. Back in Flynn's base, Eve and Seth have found the permanence code, successfully transferring a digital naval orange tree into the real world, breaking the 29-minute barrier. She and Seth download the code to a hard drive and set off back to NCOM headquarters. Informed of Julian's attack by her Lieutenant Ajay, Eve sets off on her own, but Julian and Ares track her through the grid. Julian then sends Ares and second-in-command Athena after Eve into the real world to acquire the code. The two pursue Eve into the city on light cycles, bisecting a police car and trapping her in a parking garage. After striking Athena with her cycle, Eve then hijacks it to escape, but is eventually cornered by Ares in an empty port. Rather than allow the code to fall into Julian's hands, Eve breaks the pen drive, dropping it into the water. Ares, about to derez again, starts to collapse, observing Eve's empathetic response. With seconds left before he and Athena derez, Julian has Eve digitized and transferred to the Dillinger grid. As Elizabeth again criticizes Julian for this escalation, Julian becomes more determined to recuperate by obtaining the permanence code. Ares informs him that the code can be obtained from Eve's identity disk, but the process will kill her, which to his surprise, Julian accepts. After telling Athena Julian is indisposed and to leave him alone with Eve, she grows suspicious and seeks an audience with Julian himself. Ares then offers to help Eve escape if she will help him achieve permanence and escape the grid once and for all. Once she accepts, Athena returns with new orders from Julian: kill Ares and Eve to extract the code. The two escape in a watercraft made of hard light, materialize in Dillinger's hangar, and break out of the facility. Julian then summons Athena and names her the new master control program after Ares' defects, instructing her to obtain the code by any means necessary, obtaining a Dillinger particle laser, and sets off in pursuit in a glider. En route back to NCOM headquarters, Eve and Ares reflect on each other's motivations. Ares deduces that Eve's quest to obtain the permanence code was driven by the death of her sister and her perceived inferiority for developing games and other recreational software instead of working to save lives. Eve realizes a copy of the permanence code may yet exist on another backup of Flynn's system, kept and preserved as a museum piece at NCOM. The two reunite with Seth at NCOM's offices in order to digitize and upload Ares to Flynn's grid. Athena shows up and destroys their particle laser, ostensibly trapping him in the server, before chasing Eve through the office. The sprinkler system activates, and Athena demonstrates a fleeting moment of self-awareness from the sensation of falling rain before derezzing again. When Ajay and his assistant Aaron walk in to ask what happened, Seth and Eve explain the only way to free Ares and stop Julian is to hack Athena's particle laser. The four immediately begin working to accomplish this as Ares finds his way around Flynn's primitive grid, meeting an aspect of Flynn himself. Julian, enraged at his latest failure to reacquire Eve, is berated by Elizabeth once more, who is having her board reinstating her as CEO. Athena rematerializes on her own and starts bringing forth reinforcements herself. After Elizabeth tries to shut off the particle lasers, Athena stabs and mortally wounds her, reminding Julian he instructed her to obtain the code by any means necessary. Elizabeth spends her last words blaming Julian for everything that has transpired until now, including her imminent death. Back on Flynn's grid, Ares and Flynn discuss Ares' desire for permanence. Flynn is fascinated by the notion of a malfunctioning program who wants to live, referring to Ares, as well as his inability to understand his own internal motivations. Flynn grants him the key to permanence, but warns him that if he dies in the real world, he will die for real, with a better name for it being the impermanence code. Ares then rematerializes in Flynn's arcade in a new neon white suit. Athena pilots a recognizer ship into the city as she scans for Eve. When Eve and the others realize what is happening, she takes off, running to buy them more time to hack Dillinger's grid. Athena's ship is shot by military aircraft, but not before taking both of them out. She then traps Eve in a cage of hard light, preparing to return to Dillinger headquarters in a light tank. Ares intercepts her, and with his new identity disk, destroys the tank before dueling Athena. Ajay, Seth, and Aaron successfully penetrate the Dillinger mainframe and shut it down before Athena derezzes permanently. The Dillinger headquarters are raided by SWAT, and rather than be taken into custody, Julian reboots this grid and digitizes himself. Eve and Ares go their separate ways, with NCOM using the permanence code to develop climate change-resistant agriculture and new cures for various diseases. Upon returning to Flynn's base, Seth brings her a postcard from Ares explaining that he has been living outside the grid and intends to find others like him. In a mid-credit scene, Julian obtains an identity disk that belonged to his grandfather's program, Sark, and starts to transform into a new being.